الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا وسيلة والفضيلة وبعثه اللهم مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد. Brothers and sisters in Islam, with death being the inevitable reality for all of us, which disconnects us from the human experience of this life, the breeding ground for the hereafter, it is important that we leave behind something that will continue to work in our favor while we wait patiently and endure the waiting process of life in the barzakh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, indeed we will give life to the dead. When you die, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring you back. And we will write or record everything that you have done in this life, وَآثَارَهُمْ, and what you leave behind. We will write down and we will record مَا قَدَّمُوا, what you have done of deeds in this life,
وَآثَارَهُمْ, and what you leave behind as a legacy. We will record it all. And all of that we have contained fi Imam Mubin in a clear record. All that we possess in this life, brothers and sisters, all of the opulence and material possessions that we place so much emphasis on will one day disappear. And the only reality that will stand in front of us is what we did, what we put forward for ourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, مَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. That what you have will disappear. مَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ. What you have with you, everything that you possess, will one day disappear. وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. And what is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will remain, it will endure forever. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward us for the best of our deeds. And it is only then that we will realize how many opportunities that we have squandered in this life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala captures the frustration of those who blame themselves after receiving their books in their left hand, realizing that all of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with, all of the opportunities that Allah gave them, they squandered it all. They wasted it all. The money that Allah gave you, you used it for your own pleasures, and you did nothing with your money to plant seeds to grow for you in the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you positions of authority, and you didn't use your position of authority to create change in the world around you. You use the positions of authority that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you to continue the dysfunction that is around you. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with a position of authority, a position of superiority, a position where we control the lives and the narrative around us, that is a test of our fortitude to see how much we're going to use the power that Allah gave us to create change, to establish justice, not to continue the bureaucracy, not to continue the same old narrative. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَأَمَّا مَنْ أُوتِيَ كِتَابَهُ بِشِمَالِهِ فَيَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أُوتَ كِتَابِيَهْ وَلَمْ أَدْرِ مَا حِسَابِيَهْ يا ليتها كانت القاضية ما أغنى عني ماليا هلك عني سلطانيا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, and as for the one who receives his book in his left hand, he will say, يا ليتني لم أوت كتابية. I wish I had never been given my book. Because my reality is right there in my hands. And it's no coincidence that you will receive your book in your left hand, because that is the hand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the right hand, the hand of authority that Allah gave you, you didn't use it. So you receive your book in your left hand as a sign of humiliation and embarrassment. As for the one who receives his book in his left hand, he will say, I wish I had never received the book. He will say that I didn't even know that I was going to be held accountable. لَمْ أَدْرِ مَا حِسَابِيَهْ. I didn't even know that there was a such thing of accountability. And then he will begin to realize all of the blessings that he squandered. He will say, I wish I was destroyed, that I would not have to face accountability, because every blessing that Allah gives us, we will be accountable for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. Then on that day you will be questioned about every na'im. Every blessing that Allah gave you, He's going to ask you about it. And the man will say, مَا أَغْنَى عَنِّي مَالِيَهْ. My wealth has failed me. All of the money that I had in this life, I can't do anything with it in the hereafter. Nothing. مَا أَغْنَى عَنِّي مَالِيَهْ. My wealth can't help me today. But when you were in this life and Allah blessed you with wealth, rather than you planting seeds that would grow in this life even after your demise, That you could continue while you were in your grave, you could continue to accumulate hasanat. What did you do? You thought you were going to take your wealth with you. And the only thing that you did was leave your wealth for your waritha. You left it for your inheritors. Every dollar you have in your pocket, every dollar you have in your bank account, all of the money that you consider so important for you today, if you died right now, all of it is going to your children. All of it is going to your family members who are going to come and fight with one another over your wealth because you can't take it with you. And on that day, you will realize what a mistake you made. I had all of this money in this life, and I couldn't take it with me. My wealth cannot help me today. My wealth has failed me. My authority can avail me nothing today. You are the principal of a school. You are the imam of a masjid. You are the head of your corporation. You are the head of your business. And rather than you changing the narrative, rather you changing the environment around you, you allow the environment around you to change you. You were affected by change rather than affecting change. When you look at the Prophet ﷺ and all of the prophets and messengers, when Allah gave them the command, when they became prophets and messengers, they impacted the environments around them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala admonished the Prophet ﷺ on many occasions that the validity of your messengership is not in you continuing the plight of the elite, but you advocating for the poor, the impoverished, and those who can't advocate for themselves. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet ﷺ, do not turn your eyes away from those who call on their Lord day and night. Don't turn away from them. Because this is where your validity lies. This is where the validness of your messengership lies. You don't come and continue the narrative. You come and you change the narrative. He said, Halaka anni sultaniya, my authority can avail me nothing today. You had power in this life, but you didn't use it. And so therefore in the hereafter, you will blame yourself. And the beauty of Islam is found in the fact that despite death severing us from this life, there are things that we can do to cushion our journey into the next life, utilizing many of the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us access to in this life to help us in the hereafter. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنُ آدَمَ, that when the child of Adam dies, انْقَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثَ, that all of his deeds stop, with the exception of three. One of them is ilmun yuntafa'u bi, knowledge that he leaves behind that people continue to benefit from. Or sadaqatul jariyah, or an ongoing charity. You gave charity, you left a waqf, you left an endowment behind that people continue to benefit from. You helped build a masjid, you helped build an Islamic center, you helped build an Islamic school, and people continue to benefit from it after your demise. Or waladun salih yad'u lahu, or a righteous child that you leave behind that will supplicate for you. When, as last week, I dealt with the first part of this, and that is ilmun yuntafa'u bi. And we talked about Imam al-Bukhari, Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari, who compiled over a 16-year period one of the largest compilations of hadith that we have now today amongst us, and that is Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih al-Jami', which is the real name of the book. And never could Imam al-Bukhari imagine that that book later on in life would become the second most authentic book to Muslims after the Quran. Never could he have imagined that. 16 years that he compiled this book. And he made this comment about why he did this. He said, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, ما وضعت في كتابي الصحيح حديث إلا اغتسلت قبل ذلك وصليت ركعتين. He said, I never put one hadith in my book, Sahih al-Bukhari, I never put one hadith in the book, except that I made wudu and I prayed 2 rak'ah istikhara before I put the hadith in the book. And we have now over 7,000 hadith in Sahih Bukhari. So you do the math. How many rak'ah sunnah did he make istikhara? Out of all of the thousands of hadith in Sahih Bukhari, before he put one hadith in that book, he prayed 2 rak'ah istikhara. And there's over 7,000. He continued, he said, وَصَنَّفْتُ كِتَابِيَ الصَّحِيحِ لِسِتِّ عَشْرَ سَنَةً خَرَجْتُ مِنْ ستة من بين 600,000 حديث وَجَعَلْتُهُ حُجَّةً فِيمَا بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ جَلَ وَعَلَى. Allahu Akbar. He said that I collected this book, Sahih Bukhari, and what I put in that book, it took me 16 years to compile the entire book. And what I put in that book of 7,000 and some odd hadith in the book, I took that from 600,000 hadith that I had already memorized. 600,000 hadith on memory, on tap. And I only pulled from that 600,000, 7,000 for the Muslims to benefit from. He said, and I did this so that it would be a hujjah. It would be an argument for me when I stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yawm al-qiyamah. What have we done that will argue on our behalf yawm al-qiyamah? With all of the wealth that we have, with all of the opulence that we have, with all of the property that we own, with all of what we know about Islam, all of these scholars and religious people, mashallah, boasting and bragging about how much you know about the religion and how much someone else doesn't know about the religion. But what have you done for Islam? What have you done for yourself that is going to argue on your behalf yawm al-qiyamah? And for many of us, wala shay. He said that I did this so it would be a hujjah bayni wa bayna Allah yawm al-qiyamah, that it would be my argument in front of Allah yawm al-qiyamah. That all of the wrong that I did in my life, I could say at least, oh Allah, I did this one deed for you. And I left it for the Muslims to benefit from. Part and overlook everything that I've done in my past. What do we have? What are we leaving behind that will serve as a legacy for us when we stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Brothers and sisters in Islam, everyone is not going to leave a legacy of knowledge behind. Everybody is not going to be a knowledgeable person, or even those who are knowledgeable have the ability or the wherewithal to leave knowledge behind so that others can benefit from it. However, some of the scholars were wealthy as well. Maybe you don't know that. Maybe because we paint this picture that being somehow religious and spiritually inclined and spiritually knowledgeable, that automatically equates with being broke and being poor. And you look at many of the scholars of the past, many of them were wealthy, rich. As a matter of fact, many of them used to spend on their students because they realized that their students were poor. And this only added to their sadaqah jariyah. So not only did they leave behind knowledge that would be benefited from after their demise, they also helped and paid for and assisted financially those of their students who were financially challenged to aid in their legacy. As you had scholars like Abdullah ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah ta'ala, who was wealthy and used to spend on other scholars such as Hamad ibn Salama, Hamad ibn Zayd, Sufyan al-Thawri, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, Fudayl ibn Iyad, and many others. Yes, Abdullah ibn Mubarak used to give them money so that they can continue on in their journey of seeking knowledge of the religion. You had Layth ibn Sa'd. Layth ibn Sa'd, who used to help Malik. Imam Malik, this great Imam, Al-Hujjah, Imam Al-Haramain, Imam Al-Mecca. That Imam Malik used to be funded by Layth ibn Sa'd, one of the great scholars of hadith. He used to send him 100 dinars, 100 gold coins a year. And he said, "Lola hada mashtagaltu." If it wasn't for Imam Malik, I would have never worked in my life. I don't have to work, but I'm working to take care of him. La ilaha illallah. What are we doing? Who do we take care of? You have many brothers who would like to take another wife. I want to marry the sister because, as if the women in our community are somehow charity cases, right? I want to marry the sister so I can help her out. How about not marrying her and just helping her out? How about that? You don't need to marry her if you're sincere about helping. You don't need to marry her. You don't need to cake and eat it too. Just help her sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we marry the person and then we make their lives miserable under the guise that I got some extra superfluous wealth and I just want to help one of the sisters out. La wallahi, your sisters don't need your help. If you want to help financially, then help financially and let that be your legacy. Let every dime that you spend be your hujjah between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yawm al-qiyamah. And what are we leaving behind as our legacy? And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَأَن لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى وَأَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى. That man can have nothing except what he strives for. And your sa'i and what you have striven for, you will see it in the hereafter. But if you didn't strive for anything, فَاقِدُ الشَّيْء لَا يُعْتِي. Somebody who doesn't have something can't give what they don't have. What are you going to see Yawm al-Qiyamah? What is your legacy that you're leaving behind? And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we acknowledge, we digest, and we acknowledge this important fact in our lives, and that we begin working towards leaving a legacy behind for us that will argue on our behalf in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yawm al-qiyamah. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-azim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bima ja'a fihi min al-ayati wa dhikri al-hakim. Aqulu ma tasma'un astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'iril mu'minina min kulli dhanb fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. الحمد لله العلي الجبار غافل الذنب وقابل التوب شديد العقاب وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Another sadaqah jariyah, another ongoing charity, or something that we can leave behind as a legacy for us after our demise, is walidul salih, is a righteous child. A righteous child, as the Prophet ﷺ said, يَدْعُ لَهُ, that would make dua for his parents. And there's not enough time or enough space in this khutbah to elaborate on the importance or the intricacies of this component in our lives. And it is not just about leaving behind a child supplicating for you on your behalf. It's not just about that. Because some parents bring children into the world and we do very minimal. We do very little in terms of their Islamic education and nurturing. And then we're saying, oh, make dua for me. We want our children to make dua for us. It's not just about your children making dua for you. It's not just about your children making hajj for you on your behalf. It's not about your children remaining on Islam so that they can give charity on your behalf or make dua on your behalf. Why? Because there are elements that could render all of that null and void. Perhaps your children are doing it for the wrong reason. We don't want to bank on that. We don't want to put all of our eggs in one basket as it relates to that. However, the most important part of leaving behind a righteous child, which is actually the main component through which the child is acknowledged as righteous, and that is leaving behind the legacy of Taweed. Leaving behind children who understand the right of their Lord over them and give their Lord his rights. That is far more important than a child making dua for you, a child making hajj for you, a child making umrah for you, a child giving sadaqah for you. Leaving behind a child who understands the rights of his Lord over him and gives his Lord his rights and gives the creation their rights. There is no legacy that is greater than that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, using Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam as an example of leaving behind the legacy of Taweed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ إِنَّنِي بَرَاءٌ مِّمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا الَّذِي فَطَرَنِي فَإِنَّهُ سَيَهْدِينِ وَجَعَلَهَا كَلِمَةً باقية في عقبهم لعلهم يرجعون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and remember when Ibrahim said to his father and to his people, I am free from you and what you worship. I'm free from you. I have nothing to do with you and what you worship, except the one that created me, that originated me from the beginning. فَإِنَّهُ سَيَهْدِينَ. He is the one that is going to guide me. And Allah said that word, meaning La ilaha illallah, that word, Allah made it kalimatin baqiyah, made it a long-lasting word. The legacy, La ilaha illallah, is the legacy of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. He made it kalimatin baqiyah, made it a long-lasting word, la'allahum yarji'un, because as long as there's a continuance of Taweed in our midst, our children can find their way back to God. Our children can find their way back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when we introduce all of these rituals, all of the intricacies of the religion, our children become confused. And so they rather believe that coming back to Islam is rolling their pants above the ankle and growing their beard, and that's the extent of their Islam. Rather, they have failed in giving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala his haqq, failed in giving the creation their haqq. We're mixing apples and oranges. We're giving precedence to something that is sunnah over something that is wajib. Leaving behind a legacy of Taweed so that our children can find their way back to Islam. Not find their way back to the rituals of Islam. Not find their way back to the intricate details of the religion that sometimes gets conflated, gets confusing. And to our children just wash their hands of the religion altogether. This imam told me I got to do it like this. This one said I got to do it like that. It's just confusing. There's nothing confusing about who God is. That's a concept that everyone can understand. But yet we put very little focus on that and more focus on the intricate matters of the religion, causing more confusion than we do guidance. Leaving behind a child who embodies the concept of Taweed is a privilege. Is a privilege that not even the prophets and messengers, not even them, many of them weren't even guaranteed that. You look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his uncle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't even guide his uncle to Islam. Allah told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ لَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. You don't get your uncle. This one, you don't get that one. You cannot guide whom you love, but Allah guides whom He wills. Your uncle, not going to get it. He prayed and prayed and prayed and begged Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is not going to give you that. Who are we? This is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he begged Allah to guide his uncle, and Allah still did not guide his uncle. And many of us have uncles that are Muslim. Many of us have children that our wives pushed out into this world and they're practicing Muslims, and many of us don't even deserve it. So while Allah didn't guide the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, not responding to his dua, Allah answered our dua. And many of our children, walillahi alhamd, are Muslims. Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, Allah drowned his son right in front of him. And here you are today, some of you here right now in Jumu'ah with your children. That is a blessing, that is a favor, that is a privilege that Allah granted you that He didn't even grant some of the prophets and messengers. Drowned his son right in front of him. Meanwhile, you're sitting here in Jumu'ah today with your son. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Look at that fadl, that blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you that He didn't even give some of His prophets and messengers. Some of us brought our wives to Jumu'ah today. And alhamdulillah, our wives are covering, practicing Muslim women. But there were prophets and messengers who Allah didn't even guide their wives. Prophet Lut alayhi salam, Allah did not guide his wife. Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, Allah did not guide his wife. And many of you sitting here today with your wives in Jumu'ah. Why you and not them? What do you have that is such a blessing? What did you do to deserve such a blessing? That Allah would give it to you and not give it to His prophets and messengers. So understand, the legacy of Taweed is a privilege, not a given. It's not a given for any of us. Many of us were granted this blessing of bringing children into the world who begin praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as early as 3 and 4 years old. Many of our children begin mimicking our movements and our sayings and our behaviors until it carried on with them and became a part of their daily regimen, become a part of their characters. Some of these children are going to matriculate through life, sharing their light with the rest of the world and everyone that they come in contact with, all due to your efforts as their parents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlighted in the Quran that it was very important for the prophets and messengers to make sure that they left their children on the legacy of Taweed, left them with this legacy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أَمْ كُنْتُمْ شُهَدَاءَ إِذْ حَضَرَ يَعْقُوبَ الْمَوْتِ إِذْ قَالَ لِبَنِيهِ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِنْ بَعْدِي قالوا نعبد إلهك وإله آبائك إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that, were you present at the time when death came to Prophet Yaqub? And he turned to his sons and he said to his sons, مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن بَعْدِي, what are you going to worship after I'm gone? Legacy of Taweed. Not caring about that you're having money. Not caring about that you inherit my debt, my house, my car. Because for many of us, this is what we leave our children, debt and ignorance. Meanwhile, we have prophets and messengers that are making sure that their children understand the haqq of Allah over them. Were you present at the time when death came to Yaqub and he said to his sons, مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن بَعْدِي, what are you going to worship after I'm gone? And they said they're going to continue that legacy. We're going to worship your God, and the God of our forefathers, our grandfather and great-grandfathers, Ibrahim, Ismail, wa Ishaq, ilahan wahidan, one God. And for the safety of their souls and the souls of those who come in contact with them, it's important that we leave our children upon this particular concept. The legacy of Taweed, brothers and sisters, is one that acknowledges the right of the Creator and the right of the creation. And there is no sadaqah jariyah. There is no ongoing charity that can continue on after you are dead and gone. There is nothing greater than that. That you leave behind children that understand the right of their Lord over them and the right of the creation over them. And they give each their haqq. There is no charity that is greater than that. The Prophet ﷺ said, اتق الله حيثما كنت وأتبع السيئة حسنة تمحوها وخالق الناس بخلق حسن. He said, fear Allah wherever you may be. That is the right of Allah over you. Not that you fear Allah in the masjid, not that you are aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you revere Allah only in the masjid, you revere Allah only when you're around Muslims. You fear Allah, you revere Allah no matter where you are. That is His haqq over you. Ittaqillah haythama kunt. Revere, respect the boundaries of Allah no matter where you are. وَأَتْبِئِ السَّيِّئَةَ حَسَنَةً تَمْحُوهَا, and follow up a bad deed with a good deed and it'll wipe it away. That is your right over yourself. وَخَالِقِ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ, and treat people with good character. He said people. He didn't say just treat Muslims with good character. Treat the people who see Islam the way that you do with good character. خَالِقِ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. Treat all people with good character. Whether they are part of your sect, whether they're part of your tariqah, whether they're part of your group, whether they're part of whatever clique, whatever group, treat everybody with good character. Because some of us got it a little mixed up. We only treat the people that we see and that we respect with good character. Everybody else, nothing. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, in ending, he said, أمرنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن نتصدق فوافق ذلك مالا عندي فقلت اليوم أسبق أبا بكر إن سبقته يوما فجدت بنصف مالي فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما أبقيت لأهلك يا عمر قلت مثله وأتى أبو بكر رضي الله عنه بكل ما عنده فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ماذا أبقيت لأهلك يا أبا بكر فقال رضي الله عنه أبقيت لهم الله ورسوله. فقال عمر قلت والله لا أسبقه إلى الشيء أبدا. Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, one day we were with the Prophet ﷺ and he told us to give sadaqah. Pay attention to the hadith. He said one day we were with the Prophet ﷺ and he told us, give sadaqah. He said, so I went home and I came back with half of what I owned. And I laid it in front of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet asked me, Umar, what did you leave for your family? He said, I left my family the exact equivalent to what I gave you. The equivalent of what I gave you. Meaning I split my wealth in half, I gave you half, and I left the other half for my family. He said, and then Abu Bakr comes. Here comes Abu Bakr. بِكُلِّ مَا عِنْدَهُ, with everything that he owned. Everything. And he lays it in front of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet turns to Abu Bakr and says, مَا أَبْقَيْتَ لِأَهْلِكَ يَا أَبَا بَكْرَ, what did you leave for your family, Abu Bakr? And guess what he said? He said, I left for my family Allah and His Messenger. The legacy of Taweed. The legacy of Sunnah. Umar said, Wallahi, I will never be able to outdo Abu Bakr in anything. Ever. He always outshines me with everything. Always goes above and beyond. And the scholars make no mistake about this. This doesn't mean leave our family broke. Abu Bakr was wealthy. When you have wealth, it's not all in liquid money. If you're wealthy, then you're wealthy because of investments. You're wealthy because you have property. You have things, money invested in other things that you draw your money from. The average millionaire has multiple streams of income, not just one. So it's unfathomable to think that when Abu Bakr said, I left my family, Allah and His Messenger, that he didn't leave his family any money. That's not what that meant. Abu Bakr was a wealthy businessman. And even after this incident, he still continued to be a wealthy businessman. So how do we understand what Abu Bakr did? It meant liquid wealth, dinar, dirham, gold and silver coins, liquid money. He gave everything to the Prophet ﷺ. And the only thing he had left was investments, property, camels, gardens. He had wealth invested in other things, but liquid money, he gave it all to the Prophet ﷺ. That is how we understand that. Not to walk away thinking, oh, I got to go and give everything and leave my family broke. La wallahi, that's not Islam. But the point that I'm making is he said, I left my family, Allah and His Messenger. The legacy of Taweed. And to leave behind a child. As Muslims, unfortunately, I believe that we place more emphasis on ritualizing our children to overcompensate for the insecurities that we have as parents, rather than humanizing our children. You know the difference between the two? We ritualize them. You got to pray 5 times a day. You got to do this. You got to do that to be a good Muslim. Meanwhile, we don't teach them the basics of human behavior, human interaction. How to be emotionally available for your spouse. How to be concerned and selfless and careful about how you interact with other people. So meanwhile, we're producing Muslim children who are good at salat, good at looking the part of being a good Muslim, but horrible human beings. And think about the Prophet ﷺ. He said, I only came to perfect moral character. Ibn al-Qayyim said, من فاقك في خلق فقد فاقك في الدين لأن الدين كله خلق. He said, whoever outdoes you in character, then he outdoes you in deen, because our whole entire religion is good character. Meanwhile, we place very little emphasis on that. All you got to do is pray, look the part, and you're a good Muslim. We push him off on our sisters. Oh, mashallah, he's a good brother. I see him in the masjid all the time. That does not make you a good Muslim. That makes you a ritual Muslim. What is your character like? The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man ja'akum man tardawna dinahu wa khuluquhu fazawwiju." Whoever comes to you and a man comes to you to propose to you for your daughter, if you are pleased with his deen and his character, he separated the two. Pleased with his deen and his character. Meaning he does the rituals, he prays, he fasts, he looks like a Muslim, he plays the part of a Muslim, but he also has character that follows it up. We totally overlook that part. He prays 5 times a day, mashallah, he has a beard, khalas, ala ratful ayn. That's enough for us. La wallahi. The Prophet ﷺ denied people for marriage because of their behavior. Fatima bint Qais came to the Prophet ﷺ. She said, Ya Rasulullah, khatabani Muawiyah wa Abu Jahm. Muawiyah proposed to me and Abu Jahm proposed to me. Who should I marry? The Prophet ﷺ said, Amma Muawiyah fasa'iluk la mala lah. He said, as for Muawiyah, he's poor, he doesn't have any money, don't marry him. He said, Amma Abu Jahm fadarrabun lil nisa. He said, as for Abu Jahm, he beats his women, don't marry him either. And here we are today, know that the man is abusive, and we'll turn right around and marry him to another sister in the community. Leaving behind a trail of tears. What is the legacy that we're going to leave behind, brothers and sisters? Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be mindful of your standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yawm al-qiyamah. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be mindful that our days are numbered. And none of us in here knows when it's going to be our last day. Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala said, Ya ibn Adam, innama anta ayyam. Idha dhahaba yawman dhahaba ba'duk. O son of Adam, you are nothing but mere numbered days. Every time a day goes by, a part of you goes by. You can't get that back. You're on the clock. And if you understand that, then we should sow seeds in this life that will produce, that you can reap the harvest of that in the hereafter. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا وأصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي فيها معادنا واجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على عبدك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا عن الحمد لله رب العالمين وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر.